I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Clerk of the board, please call the roll.
Freeholder Carter. Freeholder Estrada.
Present.
Freeholder Hudak. Freeholder Jallo.
Here.
Freeholder Kowalski.
Here.
Freeholder Mirabella.
Present.
Freeholder Wright.
President.
Vice Chairman Granados.
Here.
And Chairman Bergen.
Here.
Chairman, you have 7 freeholders present.
Thank you. Will you please lead us in the prayer and salute to the flag?
Humbly we ask God, the giver of peace and the lover of charity, to give the entire family of nations true agreement with his will, and to grant the light of his spirit on all who work for justice and peace. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk of the board, will you please read the statement of compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act?
The chair wishes to announce that pursuant to the requirements of New Jersey statutes annotated, Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 10 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting of the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Union has been given by mailing the annual meeting schedule for the year 2017, along with periodic changes necessitated by circumstances, to the newspapers circulating within the County of Union who are designated to receive such notice, and by posting the annual meeting schedule for the year 2017 in the Administration Building, and further by filing the annual meeting schedule for the year 2017 with the Office of the County Clerk.
Thank you. This is our agenda-setting meeting, so we will approve communication at our regular meeting on December 7th, a week from today. We'll move on into proposed resolutions. First, we have the Office of the Union County Sheriff, and we have with us Sheriff Joseph Cryan.
Good evening, freeholders, and thank you for your consideration. We have 5 resolutions before you. Let me just briefly take you through them and obviously answer any questions that you have. And as always, we appreciate your time. The first item we've discussed previously, these are x-ray machines and backups for our Cherry Street annex. They're part of the plan, all processed and part of what we planned for throughout the year. Secondly is an amended resolution for the Westfield Veterinary Group. It's increased cost. I'd like to tell you I have that the dogs are eating more, things like that. The reality of it is the most of this increased cost is because, as many of you are aware and express condolences, Canine Abby passed away for us just a month or so ago. We did run into extended veterinary costs for her loss. The third is for our crime scene lab. You may not be aware, we process all handguns here that are involved in a crime for fingerprints. Sadly, whether we like it or not, that's a fairly lengthy and voluminous project for us. We're privileged to do that here in the Sheriff's Office. This investment by you and by the citizens of this county will allow us to double the time and the ability to actually do that, and given our volume, it's a prudent expenditure. We did this as part of capital requests. You all were kind enough to approve that, as we've seen this volume coming for some period of time. Fourth is the firewall. We call it the firewall. NCIC, as you're probably very familiar with, is now moving to the web. We now need to move for our firewall protection as part of that. Many of you I know are familiar with this. The reality of it is that to use NCIC data, you need a particular firewall to separate access to that data from the county network. These costs are strictly associated with that. And finally, in number 5, this is you have seen the FAPS training as part of, some of you have the lab up in the academy. This allows us to utilize our training facility for even an expanded use. Particularly helpful, as much as I may or may not like it, particularly helpful in this active shooter and age that we're in. We think it helps with reaction time. We've tested a number of these products, and this makes sense for us. And as you can see, it's something, again, that we planned for and ask for your consideration tonight. Those are the 5 in a brief synopsis, and I'd be happy, as always, to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Sheriff. Freeholders, any questions? Seeing none?
Freeholder, thank you, and thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Department of Corrections. Pete Corvelli is here tonight.
We have one resolution on. It's
for an additional $50,000 to the contract stated for housing of female juveniles for Bergen County.
Freeholders, any questions? Yes, Vice Chairman
Thank you, Chairman.
Granados.
Roughly how many detention beds?
I'm sorry?
Roughly how many detention beds?
We have 3 females being housed in Bergen at the present time. And as juveniles get, which is called a little difficult, we also send them to Bergen at a cost of $225 a day.
Oh.
So we're a little over.
Thank you. Thanks, Chairman.
Anyone else? This is, we pay a per night, per bed charge, and this is just a reflection of using more of them, is that?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Thank you. Department of Economic Development, Deputy County Manager and Director Amy Wagner.
Good evening, freeholders. The Department of Economic Development has one resolution for your consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Freeholders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Department of Engineering, Director Graziano.
Good evening, Chairman, freeholders. I have 6 resolutions on tonight, and I'll try and answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Director.
Thank you, Chairman.
Department of Finance, Director Taylor.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. The Department of Finance has 4 resolutions for your consideration this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Director. Freeholders, any questions on these 4? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Department of Human Services, Director Anderson.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. The Department of Human Services has 23 resolutions for your consideration.
Whoa.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Freeholder Mirabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not as much of a question as a comment about number 1. I am continuously proud of this Freeholder Board and the Department of Human Services for providing this kind of service for those that are homeless in our county that require emergency shelter for periods of time when it is too cold to be out on their own. And I'm just very happy that this is some resolution and some funding that continuously is supported by this Freeholder Board, executed by the Department of Human Services, and I'm just very happy that we're in a position. I'm sorry on some level that we need to have this kind of service, but unfortunately there are people that are not as privileged and happen to be homeless, and I'm glad that we do our part to just make sure they're safe and warm, at least during the times of particular cold weather. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Freeholder, for your comments. County Manager.
To that, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've indicated to our new director that when we do our annual census count, Code Blue, that some of our freeholders participate and are out for the entire evening. So that's how much of a commitment that this Freeholder Board has to this.
Thank you, County Manager. Freeholder Estrada.
Yes. In number 1, I know that we have an amount here for $115,000, which I truly believe that just scratches the surface of our needs. Do you have an anticipation how much we used last year? If not, you can get it to me at a later day before next week.
Okay, great. I'll be happy to get you that information.
Any other questions, Freeholders? Seeing none?
I believe, if I may, I'm sorry, I believe this is a request is a slight increase over last year. We'll verify that, though.
Thank you, County Manager. Thank you, Director. Department of Parks and Recreation, Director Zuber.
Mr. Chairman, Department of Fields Parks and Recreation has 1 item on tonight's agenda, and I'll try to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Thank you, Director. Office of the County Council,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Office of the County Council has one item on tonight's written agenda. And I would ask your indulgence to add one for special counsel assignment to the firm of Schwartz, Simon and Edelstein, which I will present next week. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have on the item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the board on those two? Seeing none, thank you. County Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I did receive the information with regard to the first requested resolution from Human Services. It is a $15,000 increase from last year due to the increased demand, as Freeholder Mirabella indicated and Freeholder Estrada indicated as well. I have one resolution on for your consideration, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions for the County Manager on his resolution? And thank you for that information. Seeing no questions, we move on to freeholder-sponsored resolutions. Do I have any freeholders who will have additional resolutions for the regular meeting or are requesting any friendly amendments? Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Just have a laudatory for Our Lady of Fatima Church anniversary.
Thank you. Freeholder Jolly?
Yes, I'd like to be added to 6 and 2, if that's okay. Sure. Thank you for that.
6 and 2, okay. Anyone else?
Chairman, I'd like to be added to 5.
Thank you, Freeholder.
Chairman, just added number 6 too, please, if real process doesn't mind. Thank you.
You guys missed the boat.
Maybe we should make it the entire board?
Yeah.
That would be
And I want to add in that I may have a few laudatories to add. And I also will have a resolution for a minor amendment to our agreement with New Jersey DOT concerning the Summit Park line, which I'll have for next week. Anything else from any of the freeholders? Seeing none, we do have a need for an executive session this evening. County Council, kindly read the statement relative to tonight's executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public body may enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing certain enumerated subjects. This board now wishes to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing attorney-client privileged communications relative to ongoing litigation in the matter of Esposito versus Borough of Roselle et al., and potential contract negotiations between the Roselle Board of Education and the County of Union relative to the Mind and Body Project. The minutes of the executive session shall be separated from the minutes of the open public session. The minutes of the executive session, redacted as appropriate and necessary, shall be available in approximately 30 days. Clerk to the board shall retain the original minutes until such times the confidential limitations have been removed, at which time they shall be made available. Upon the affirmative vote of a majority of the members present, the board may enter into executive session. Upon the board's return, given this is an agenda meeting, it will not take any formal action on the matters discussed.
Thank you, County Council. Could I please have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Freeholder Mirabella, seconded by Freeholder Kowalski. Clerk of the board, please call the roll.
Freeholder Estrada?
Yes.
Freeholder Jallo?
Yes.
Freeholder Kowalski?
Yes.
Freeholder Mirabella?
Aye.
Freeholder Wright?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Granados?
Aye.
And Chairman Bergen?
Yes.
Chairman, you have 7 votes in the affirmative.
Thank you. We're now in executive session. Can I have a motion to return from?
You want to talk about that one?
Okay. Who moved that?
Move second.
Moved by the vice chair?
No?
Oh,
Mirabella.
I thought you seconded it before you moved it. Okay.
He didn't make the
Moved by
cut.
Freeholder Mirabella, seconded by Freeholder Carter. Please call the roll.
Freeholder Carter?
Yes.
Freeholder Estrada?
Yes, we're coming back.
Freeholder Jallo? Freeholder Kowalski?
Yes.
Freeholder Mirabella?
Yes, for coming back.
Freeholder Wright?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Granados?
Yes.
And Chairman Bergen?
Yes.
Chairman, you have 7 freeholders voting in the affirmative.
To come back.
Thank you. Okay, we are,
To come back from executive.
we're back from, back in regular session. Freeholder Carter is now present. Do you have any additional resolutions or friendly amendments on the?
I may have some laudatories fancy.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder. May I then have a motion to adjourn?
So
Oh,
moved.
wait, I'm sorry. Oh, County Council, do you have a,
Nothing to report at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Now a motion to
moved.
adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Yes,
you
the
all.
return.